How did Splatoon 3 go from a thrilling and enjoyable speedrun to one that no one wants to play and became a joke to the community? This is a story full of glitches, heartbreak, and a bit of Nintendo interference. But to start our tale, we have to go back to September 9th, 2022, when Splatoon 3 was released to the public. Splatoon 3's hero mode was interesting and unique. The game wasn't linear like Splatoon 1, 2, or Octo expansion. Instead of having to beat every level in a world to move on, you have to collect a certain amount of power eggs, making routing more important than ever. So in the first few weeks of the game, speedrunners were experimenting on many potential routes. At some points, it seemed like every top speedrunner had their own route through the game, and it was a breath of fresh air compared to other story modes. Throughout the first month, the route would get more optimized and unified. The goal was to play only the necessary and shortest levels to get power eggs, as well as route in power eggs that you could find in the overworld. Tricks like jumping past the 800 power egg ooze in Site 1, jumping over this ooze in Site 3, unlocking this level then super jumping it to skip some more ooze, and a bunch of skips to get to the Shiver fight without playing any levels. This made the gameplay focus on how well a speedrunner can play the overworld and not the levels, which was seen as better by many. Then, over the month of October, all of Splatoon 3's biggest skips up to that point were found. Speedrunners could close the game after the DJ Octavio fight to skip a cutscene. Then they could enter Site 2 in such a way to skip Deep Cut introducing themselves. A runner named Moxie found a way to skip the 2000 power egg ooze blocking your path to Site 4. Another speedrunner named Owen found a way to skip the 3000 power egg ooze at the end of Site 5. And Nether found a way to skip Deep Cut's cutscene right before Rocket. All of these tricks allow you to skip playing most of the levels in the game and were all tricky to do. Even Owen skip was thought to be too difficult to go for in real speedruns. But the coolest trick at the time was menu storage. Speedrunners were able to pause, restart a level, then while it's fading out, click the third option. The level will restart like normal, but that third option will be stored and will reactivate if you open the pause menu. In the regular game, this would just send you back to Alterna, which isn't really that useful. But in Rocket, it allows you to skip a phase, which normally you wouldn't be able to do until the revisit. So speedrunners can use menu storage in the big man fight, then save it until the first Grizz fight, and skip the phase. There was one major risk with menu storage. You couldn't die while you had it active. This was difficult because the skip right after menu storage was never skip, which was notoriously easy to die on. These tricks, alongside general improvements to player skill, helped whittle the time down into the low 1 hour range. Everyone was anticipating when the first sub 1 hour speedrun would happen in Splatoon 3. Every top runner was grinding to lower their times. This run was difficult for these guys with all the skips and tricks that they had to do. Splatoon 3 was just hard trick after hard trick after hard trick, unlike speedruns in other Splatoon games with easier sections between difficult tricks. At this point, the route had evolved to where you only needed to play 2 levels and the 3 boss fights, so there was little to no breathing room. Then in mid to late October, the biggest skip in the game would be found: Switch Skip, aka Rocket Skip. There's a tiny intermission between phases 1 and 2 in the rocket. During this intermission, it was possible to precisely squid roll up this pole, walk across the roof, then walk into this invisible floor and fall down into a later part of the level, skipping Rocket 2 and 3 and saving 5 minutes. There was a mad dash to get the first world record with Switch Skip. Within 2 hours of the trick being found, Thundy was the first person to get a sub 1 hour time. Then, over the next few days, the record would trade hands between the runners Haytex and Lontro. By the way, I just want to come in here and ask you to subscribe. The editors work really hard on these videos, and I hope that's obvious with the increase in quality recently. With the announcement of Splatoon Raiders, I want to grow both the YouTube and my Twitch, twitch.tv/ethan_stone_. The record would continue to be reduced lower and lower throughout November with new tricks and optimizations found, such as the splashdown skip in Crater 2, little buddy clips in Crater 3, and zipcaster clips in Rocket 5. All of this made the category even more difficult, but it was still extremely competitive, so runners could see themselves playing this game for years like they have for all campaigns before it. But that's when Mr. Nintendo decided to step in and change Splatoon 3 speedrunning forever. In the Chill Season 2022 patch, they released version 2.0, in which Nintendo patched menu storage. Apparently, you could use menu storage to get infinite power eggs, which could then be used on the Shell Drone machine to get ability chunks for multiplayer. Nintendo wanted to keep progression in multiplayer fair and wanted menu storage out of the game. This put Splatoon 3 80% into a weird place. Without menu storage, it pushed 80% back into a 1 hour category as if the sub-hour runs never happened. But if you wanted to run the game with menu storage, then you needed to go out of your way to not automatically download the update when it came out. Since this was the first major update for Splatoon 3, and because there was no mention of this in the patch notes, speedrunners didn't think it would affect the single player in any way. And well, 99% of people updated and have now lost this category. The loss of menu storage caused many people to stop running the game until spring of 2023, when the next strategy would be found, the surge roll. If you do a squid surge and then do a squid roll at nearly the same time, you can combine the two and get to places never thought possible. This revolutionized the game, allowing speedrunners to skip 1-1 and go to 1-8. This causes a funny zoom out to happen. Surge rolls are very hard to perform. It's a near frame perfect trick. You have to wait until you get slightly in the wall, then use the pause button to help time a surge and roll at the same time. But top level runners didn't seem to care. They had a new trick up their sleeves. Being able to skip 1-1 pushed 80% back to where the time was before the patch, which is all that anyone cared about. So the leaderboards have been restored to their former glory. Though people who were somehow still on pre-2.0 versions of the game were able to implement surge rolls into their runs. During the spring, another trick was found, one that would divide the community and practically kill the game for the English-speaking runners: Shiver skip. Shiver skip consists of the player timing a precise squid roll off of Shiver's shark in a way that you can fly through the air and beat the level in under a minute. However, this was a weird and precise trick that you had to get a feel for. You could practice the trick for hours and get varying results even if you did the same thing every time. People were already complaining about having a frame perfect trick at the beginning of the run, so adding another inconsistent one in the middle broke the camel's back. Speedrunners like skill and tight execution, but for the Western Splatoon speedrunning community, this killed off a lot of hype that surge rolls gave. Launchro would set a world record with surge rolls and Shiver skip, but then Japanese runners Motoro and Hightex took the throne of Splatoon 3 80%, trading records a number of times. America would get one more record to their names from the runner Thundy, the same player who got the first sub-hour. But right as that happened, a second change took place that changed Splatoon 3 speedrunning forever. In the 4.1.0 update, the devs decided to patch out surge rolls, not because they were broken for speedrunning, but because multiplayer people had found ways to use them to get to areas they shouldn't have. So for the second time, Splatoon speedrunners got nerfed by a patch. This pushed the 80% time back up a few minutes, and this really killed all hype that anyone had from surge rolls and Shiver skip. The removal of surge rolls meant that you had to play level 1-1, which has a very tough and precise trick to skip getting the third key. Splatoon 3 now had 3 separate 80% categories: no patch glitches, no menu storage plus pause abuse, and unrestricted. The community was fed up with all of these changes, and Western runners voiced their disdain for the category and Splatoon 3 speedrunning in general. If top level runners aren't having fun with the game, then that's going to influence the general community. If you check the leaderboards right now for the no patch glitches category, the top 14 are all Japanese and only 2 non-Japanese players have a sub 1 hour time. all of the runs from back in the day before Shiver Skip are now either on the unrestricted leaderboard or the no menu storage plus pause abuse category. But ever since Shiver Skip, the Western Splatoon speedrunning community has largely dismissed this game as a shitty, unfun, and difficult speedrun. Runners would rather play other games in the series where tricks are supplemented with easier breathers in between levels and don't require near frame perfect tricks. So the big question now is, will Splatoon 3 recover from this fate as a speedrun that was given up by its community? The answer is maybe. With the release of the Switch 2, you can save enough time with faster loads that you don't need to do Shiver Skip. Of course, if you're gunning for the world record, then you'll need to do it, but this is great for people looking to get into the speedrun. It also helps that the no pause abuse plus menu storage category has recently merged with the unrestricted category. Now we only have 2 versions of any percent. Splatoon 3 requires the runner to do a lot of practice before they can start running the game. While to most people this isn't very fun, to the few who have put in the time, they have found this game very satisfying to play. It's not exactly worse, just different. If you want to see more information on how the Switch 2 affects Splatoon speedrunning, click this video right here.